Hey guys, I'm Jessica Cameron, and if you have not met this lovely blonde next to me, Sadie Katz, and allow me to introduce you to her, you are going to be watching the second part of a multi-part interview. So you're going to find out more about her momentarily, but she is a very, very talented actress, filmmaker, writer, mom, and great human being, and so many other things. Let's just jump into it. I was just giving you shit about why you haven't made this into a movie or like a book.
I'm going to. I mean, my son and I moved 19 times. He's 18 now, and he's, a model and an artist. He's an artist, and he lives in LA. But we moved a lot. And part of it was like I never got a chance to like settle because everything was just like new. Every friend I met. You're meeting friends who already have some friend groups, you're still in LA, but everything was like, I hadn't even really gone to bars. I remember the first time I went into Ross. Okay. So I go into Ross and I just stood there for a second and looked around. I was like, I don't know what I wear. How do I dress? Like, what do I like to wear?
When it's not being governed.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I wore like a tank top and I didn't wear a bra. I was like, oh my God, this is great. Like, everyone must know. And like, I have a mini skirt on. This is like, it's a thing.
So do you still have family that's a part of the church?
My family wasn't in the church. That was like my rebellion, which is crazy. I know.
Oh, so how old did you join the church?
I was like 12. I know.
That's insane.
My mom believed it, but she didn't want to practice it. My mom's kind of nutty. And so she was like, yeah, that's the true religion. And as a kid, you're like, yeah, that's the true religion. And there's a lot of things Jehovah's Witnesses teach that if you're into the Bible, you're like, well, this is the only religion that doesn't celebrate holidays. And most of the holidays are pagan. If you celebrate Christmas, it's a pagan thing. If Easter's super pagan. So there's stuff that you're like, okay. And I was super A-type and wanted to be the best and, do everything right. And so, yeah. And then I got baptized at 15. And, I also was a vegetarian. Like, I had to do everything to be this kind person. That's why now I'm like, I give no fucks. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I already left an entire religion that banned me. Like,
oh my word.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so we get to LA.
Right.
And you start waitressing.
Well, I'm cocktail waitressing, of course, because I went to the Victory Theater in Burbank, which is really great and teaches Meisner. I originally studied at Cypress College with Mark Majarian, who's a big mentor of mine, which was the Eric Morris method. So I'm like pretty method. I'm really into acting. I always was in, but now I'm really into it. And so now I need a job that's going to support me, pursuing acting. So I get a job at 7969. This is like all the crazy things I did, where it was a tranny bar. Okay. And so I went from being a Jehovah's Witness to working at a tranny bar. And they did multiple. Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Coronavirus.
Right.
It was drag queen night one night, tranny bar another night, Russian night, which everyone thought I was Russian, and like rock and roll night. Like Danny would have loved it. Yeah. Girls swinging from these metal ropes and heavy bands coming and that was like, I was absolutely enamored by everything. Like, the one cool thing about it was I was like a little like if we just had a night where like, we bought lotto tickets and had some beers, I always was like, oh my God, that was the funnest night ever. Like, everything was cool. Everything was new. Everything. Amazing. Yeah. So, I was crazy about Christmas. I'm still pretty crazy, but I got to celebrate Christmas. I'm putting up a tree. Like, it was really, everything was exciting. I got to date, and I could date anyone. You're a Jehovah's Witness. you only know, like, I knew a lot of people because I was a pretty well-known Jehovah's Witness. I was really involved in it, you know.
If Sadie Katz is going to be a Jehovah's Witness, you're going to be the most well-known of all of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, I had done a lot. I was very active as a pioneer and stuff. So, like, I knew a lot of people, but even then, let's say you don't know a lot of young people. Maybe you know a couple hundred. You're picking your husband out of that. And, like, so this was, like, everybody. And guys are hitting up on me, and like, this is so crazy. And I didn't even think about, like, oh, here's my son. I would be like, oh, I don't have a babysitter tonight. Someone's inviting me to a really fancy meal in, you know, Beverly Hills, and they're like, you can bring him, and I'm just there with like a diaper bag. I was very, like, there was an innocence to me that I'll never get back. That I had, that was like very sweet. There wasn't like not that I was innocent at all. It was a freaking, what happens when you hold a spring and then you let a spring go is it bounces around and goes crazy. So I wanted to do everything. Thank God I had my son, because he held me back. Yeah. I was like, okay, I can't run around and like do some crazy drugs or something, because I have to be like, I'm my son's only person.
Yeah. You're being mom.
Yeah. So thank God, or I would have probably have been like, I don't know, really crazy.
So why moving 19 times?
You know what? Some of them, like, it was, if I went through real fast, it was like, there was, like, the first time I moved, I lost a roommate. Well, the first move, I lived in Orange County. Then I decided, my acting teacher at the Victory Theater said, Sadie, you need to move to LA if you're going to pursue acting. You've got the chops, and, you know, do it. And I was like, but what about my son? And he's like, him and his wife, Maria and Tom Ormany and Maria Gobetti, were like, just go for it. So I moved. And then after that, I got a roommate, my friend Michael, from Craigslist. So I went from not like able to be alone with someone to moving in a guy I don't know on Craigslist who ended up, I'm still friends with him and his wife, which is amazing. And but then he got in like a fight about cable with the landlord, so then we had to move. Then we lived in North Hollywood. Then I didn't like the school district. I wanted Griffin to go to like a cool school district, so then I moved, and then they gave away the back house, and then I fell in love with someone, moved in with him. That didn't work out. Then moved someplace else, and then met somebody else like a year later. And
like this whole time you're pursuing acting,
yes,
while waitressing, raising a son.
Well, I'm doing, the waitressing was like, you know, I also worked for Glenn A. Larson.
I don't know who this is.
So I ended up being a personal assistant for Glenn A. Larson, who's like one of the biggest 80s television producers of all time. Oh. He did Battlestar Galactica, Knight Rider, Magnum P.I., Manimal. Like, his thing goes on and on and on. And I dated his son, who I met at the rock thing. He was in one of the rock bands. And he said, my dad needs a personal assistant, and we're to go on this trip to Atlantic City. And the guy I was dating, who I wasn't serious about, who I hadn't even really hooked up with, was like, you should be the personal assistant, then you could come on this trip with me. And they were going to pay me, so I went. And Glenn, he passed away, was one of the funniest, craziest, insane, he was like Arthur, if you've ever seen Arthur. Yeah. Just dripped with charisma, and he had so many stories, and he gave me a script on the flight and said, read this, tell me what you think. Well, he didn't realize that I had been really involved in script analysis from school and stuff. So I read this script, and because I didn't know to be intimidated by Glenn, I was like, well, you know, you should do this, this, and this, and gave him what I thought. And then he was like, okay, well, you rewrite this scene. And of course, I was like a young blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. He's 70 years old, in late 60s. And so I ended up being his personal assistant and you know, rewriting stuff, for, you know, weighing in. And then we actually wrote a pilot together at like a sizzle, or not a sizzle. We used to do treatments to sell series, and when I was 25, I went and pitched that with him to the head of ABC, NBC, CBS, and it didn't sell. It's called Rules of Engagement, so they stole my title, which you could do.
Oh, Hollywood.
Yeah, so I mean, I was a personal assistant for a couple of years, and then I ended up writing something with Mark Jones, who is the creator of Leprechaun, who is best friends with Glenn. And we started writing together. We wrote a couple scripts together. One we sold, Scorned, with Annalyn McCord and Billy Zane. So everything, honestly, was like, it's, you know, when you get older and you look back and you're like, oh, that domino fell, and that domino fell, and it just kept falling.
Like at the time, you didn't realize it.
No,
you were just like
I was
living your
always
life.
panicked. I'm a single mom. I'm just running around like, you know, wanting everything to be perfect for my son and wanting things to be great. And so, you know, everything was like a lot of like 3-year relationships, and then it wouldn't go well. But I wanted a dad for my son, and, you know, but everything was like a chicken with my head cut off.
Now, did you like being a personal assistant? Because I did that very briefly and had a horrible experience.
Glenn was amazing, though.
Yeah.
Who did you do
I can't mention who it was, but it's a female actress who used to be on a TV show, and I came into her life when she had to like drastically downsize because her income fell, and she was just so full of herself and very difficult to be around. And like I will never forget this, she would get so angry because of LA traffic, and she would like hold it against me, and I was like, here's the thing, you want me to like pick up a single thing of vitamins at Whole Foods here, and then you want me to go and pick up like one chicken breast at Trader Joe's here because it's going to save you like, you know, $1.40 because it's cheaper there, but like it's a 30-minute drive time by the time you park. And like there was like, if you guys don't know, Whole Foods is a very popular healthy food place, and there's like that one that's like literally in West Hollywood, but like trying to get in and out of that parking lot is sometimes a 30-minute task, and there's nothing you can do because like as you go in, you can't move forward, and now there's like 4 cars behind you, so you're literally just waiting until they direct someone on where else to park, and it's just going to take an hour long. And you like once there's no way to really know like, is it going to be fast or is it not, because you just have to go into the parking lot and there's nowhere else to park. So I'm like, and she would get so mad, like, oh, I'm paying you. I was like, yeah, I'm aware, but like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't want to be sitting in traffic any more than you want to be paying me to sit in traffic.
I had a really awesome job.
You're so
like,
lucky.
I had an awesome, I brought Griffin to school when he was, to the job with me, because Glenn has a ton of kids, and he was like, there was always people at the house, and Griffin would like crawl on him while he was writing, because he was writing Knight Rider, which he sold to Harvey Weinstein, but he was rewriting the movie. So that's why you haven't seen, you know, the new Knight Rider movie yet, because the Weinstein's on the right. But I got to write, and like, you know, Glenn was a heavy red wine drinker, so like a lot of my job was like Friday lunch, drive him to Beverly Hills to Mr. Chow's, and you know, and like drink, and Glenn would be like, have a drink. I'm like, I'm driving your Cadillac home, like. And so I mean, my job is, I got really lucky. Like, I got a lot of lucky things that happened. One of the reasons was I was also super open to stuff, and I think people were like, this girl's a single mom, and you know, and I was fun, and then when I outgrew that, where, you know, he had a girlfriend that I ended up marrying that didn't like me around, I didn't get to do all the cool stuff. And I mean, my whole period of working with Glenn is a movie unto itself. I mean, there was so much crazy stuff that happened. So I feel like I've had like 9 lives, but I have, like, I literally have, like, I'm like, oh, that was that section. That was Woodland Hills. And then I moved for a little while, like, to Long Beach. I fell in love with this guy who owned a barbershop I was totally in love with. And he had, like, right when we moved in together, he had an accident, and some kid ran out in front of him, and he hit the kid, and the kid died. Yeah. So then I had to move again. Like, all the moves were like extreme, crazy, like,
Man.
how did this even happen? It wasn't his fault or anything. It was very sad.
Accidents.
Yeah. It was really upsetting. And then, you know, so we moved out of Long Beach, and we had a little thing, and then we got back together, and then that didn't work out. And then, you know,
And you're still writing and pursuing acting during this time? Okay.
Yes. So at the time, I'm doing student films. So I'm doing it like the old school way. So I started off in LA, the train. I started off in LA with like the very beginning. When you come to LA, you have your Thomas guide, and you have your headshots, and you get your Backstage West, and you circle, you know, your auditions, you stuff envelopes, and then you get like A5, your Thomas guide, and you're like, and I also modeled, I forgot. So I got discovered at this party and ended up being modeling for a year for L'Oreal on contract. That's right. And so I only had to work like one day a month. Like, I just have random.
So what?
I forgot.
Can I see, do you have photos from L'Oreal?
Yes. Oh my God.
You have to send them
Yes.
to me so I can
Wait
insert
till you
them
see
here.
it. I was a Matrix chick. And, well, you'll have to see them to understand them, but I will get you the pictures and put them on here. But yeah, I got that job randomly. I'm at a party, and this guy goes, "Are you this?" I was very drunk. And he said, "Are you this fun in real life, like when you're not hammered?" And I'm 24, you know, I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah. So a couple weeks later, and this is right after I stopped being a Jehovah's Witness, so that was like my first gig or whatever. And I all of a sudden get a phone call, and they're like, this manager is trying to get a hold of you. Okay, so I pick up the phone, and he says, if you can get to San Diego, there's a girl who looks like you, but she's like 5'11", I'm 5'7", but she broke her nose. So if you can get to San Diego in the next like 5 hours, and I'd never dyed my hair before. Too, they needed someone with virgin hair. I had to bleach out. And so I got to San Diego in some rusty car and walked in, and I had really high heels on, and the manager kind of wedged me into getting the job because the other two girls were like not the right fit. So I got the job and got to like fly around with L'Oreal and do her shows.
That is so random and so fun.
I know.
Okay, so now you're modeling and you're acting and you're writing. So
and I'm blogging because you got to remember it's like 2005 or something.
Yeah.
I've got a blog. I'm doing like Young Hollywood, blogging for love. So I'm doing that. I wrote for Corpsey and Girls and Corpses,
Okay.
which is really funny because we met at Kinko's while I was stuffing those envelopes. So everything. I just was really open to saying yes to everything, which sometimes was really bad, but sometimes that was great. Yeah. And then I finally, I wasn't doing any nudity or anything, and I finally decided, some advice, because it's when all actresses weren't doing nudity, to do nudity, because it was really hard to get an audition, because we had moved to the computerized auditions. And I really wanted to do film. I didn't want to do TV. And it's raining.
It is raining, so sorry if there's sound issues, guys.
Yeah. And so when I said, okay, I'll do nudity, when I clicked that little box on the computer for submissions that I would do nudity, I finally got like an audition to be the lead in a film, this great, which I loved, romantic comedy, dark comedy called Nipples and Palm Trees. And so I got that film, which ended up having a very limited theatrical, and it was in the top 100 on iTunes for a year because of the title, but it's actually a good film. And then my first horror film. So right when I did that, then I did this other film that they never ended up releasing. That I can't remember
The title of.
Yeah. And I was exhausted. I was like literally spent from doing this film. And I get this audition for House of Bad, which is the very first horror film I ever did, directed by Jim Towns, and produced by Scott Frizzell and Dorota. And I almost didn't go to the audition. In fact, I called Jim and I said, I'm exhausted. I just did 2 films in a row. Like, I can't. Like, I don't know if I can even, like, stand up. I can't make it to the audition today. And he said, well, come tomorrow. And I was auditioning to be the bad, like one of the bad sister. There's 3 sisters that go to the cabin and they're hiding. They stole drug money. So I go to the audition the next day, and I ended up getting the film. And then halfway, I wasn't supposed to be as important as a sister as Syra in House of Bad. But after 3 days of filming, they were like, you're kind of our lead. We're going to rewrite the end. And, you know, that's like a cool thing. So that was like when I knew, like, all the nervous energy I had and all the, like, fear that I had before auditions, because everything meant so much to me, that I would throw up before my auditions and everything. I wanted it so bad. I didn't want to be famous. I wanted to act. So I realized if I could just go into auditions and fake that I was confident, then the second I'm supposed to cry or be emotional, that's a piece of cake, because I'm holding it in. So they would go like, how the hell did you do that so fast? And it's like, because I'm scared out of my mind right now. So that's kind of why horror, you know, I did House of Bad. House of Bad did really well. And there was like already a little horror fan base, and you know how loyal
they're amazing.
can be. Yeah.
Is a House of Bad still available to watch somewhere?
It is. It's on Amazon, and I think it's
I'll link it below.
free. Yeah, there's Amazon and probably Vudu, and yeah, it continues to do really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and at this time, are you still writing as well, even though, you know, the acting is kind of appearing to take central focus?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's hard sometimes when you're like acting to write, but I was always writing something. I want to say, so Mark Jones and I, after we did so then Mark and I decided to write Scorned, like in between everything. We had written one script called Before Christmas that didn't sell, because it was really racy, based on a true story. And then when we wrote Scorned, it took like 3 years to sell. That's right, I wrote it for me to be the lead. It's just a small little, he wanted to help me write a film that I would get to have a break. And so we named the character Sadie. It's like misery for younger people. And her boyfriend cheats on her with her best friend. And so she lures them to this lake house and tortures them and gets away with it. Sorry. Oh, spoiler alert. Yeah.
It's okay. If you watch this channel, you know that we always have spoilers.
Right. Sorry. But you should still watch it, because Anna McCord does a good job. And Viva Bianca from, I think, Game of Thrones, like early season. But what happened was we sold it to Anchor Bay for like $2.5 million, the budget. And they didn't even let me audition. But what's interesting is a lot of the craziness of my character from Scorned that I wanted to play, that I was really familiar with, was kind of like Sally in Wrong Turn 6. So, and Wrong Turn 6 ended up being a much bigger film than Scorned, because it was part of this franchise. So it's weird how things, you know, happen.
Absolutely. Well, and even still, I would think that landing a $2.5 million movie that's being produced by Anchor Bay had to have helped your writing career. Like,
yeah, but you know what? Here's the crazy thing, and I hate to say this, but especially when you're a young girl, when you have a writing partner that's a man who's already established in the industry, or even if he's not, even if he's just, the last film I just did, I wrote with a man, and I'm going to not say this diplomatically. What happens is no one thinks you actually wrote it.
Yeah, people just assume that the man did it, or give him more credit, or like top billing.
Yeah. As
opposed to being like, it was a joint effort, or...
And Mark and I had a huge, he says this differently. I went to Portsmouth, Ohio to watch it get filmed. I had a small cameo at the end that's actually really fun. And when I got there, the front page of the script was missing. And I was like, where's the freaking front page of the script, because that's where I would have been credited. And a lot of people there were like, you wrote this? I was like, yeah, I'm the co-writer. And so that's why Mark's a very good friend of mine, and he says that I took it too seriously. He said, she said, and he's still my friend to this day, but I did my cameo and got my ass back on the plane, and it was like, peace.
Well, it's hard whenever you slave away at something and then you don't see the credit after, it's a labor of love.
We ended up making peace with it. I got Writers Guild, which is amazing, and he did have the means to, like, I couldn't have written that script and sold it to Anchor Bay because they wanted him as the director, and so there was some of that.
Oh, he directed it too.
Yeah.
Okay, and they still couldn't get you a audition. Hollywood.
Well, yeah. I think everyone got stars in their eyes, and so I think I got to do an audition tape that I don't think anyone ever saw, but. It's funny because that almost made me more insistent of I don't need your help. And then at the same time, I had just started dating someone else, and I moved into this amazing $11 million mansion. That wasn't why we dated, but I'm sure a lot of people thought that. And so right at that time, my 2 films come out, Nipples and Palm Trees and House of Bad, and they both do well in their relative small world. And then I do a Skinamax movie because didn't know that those other films were going to come out, and I was like, well,
let's be honest, we never know when the movies are going to come out.
No,
I always say
it's
it's a miracle when one gets finished.
It was 3 years after House of Bad, and Nipples and Palm Trees didn't take as long, but I had done Nipples and Palm Trees as a short, and then we got financing for a feature.
And this is back when that actually happened.
Yeah.
That doesn't do that now.
No, even then, I don't think it normally happened. But, and I was also so by the time I moved, then Scorned happened. And then I got this movie shot as Cage of Glory with, Danny Trejo and Stephen Bauer and Hector Echeverria, where I play Mexican cage fighter's wife named Gia, which makes sense. And that was there were billboards. Now, it was low budget. Patrick Kilpatrick's in it as well. There were billboards. So Robert Miano. All over Los Angeles. I was not on them, but my name was. I was supposed to be on it, but they ended up having these other names. But I drove through, and I would drive from Hollywood Hills and drive my son to Manhattan Beach School because I wanted him to stay in the same school since I kept moving so much. And I would see 15 billboards and on the bus and the bus sign. So, cool stuff like that happened that really shouldn't have happened. It just shouldn't have happened, but it did. Yeah, it was cool. So everything was kind of then I did something really bright and hired a publicist, which you and I have talked about. I was forget about an agent. Agents, I'm submitting myself for 4 hours a day, just clicking on every casting site, doing it on my own. But I hired a publicist, October Coast, Clint at October Coast, and he started getting my name on Google. And that's the big trick, is when someone looks you up on Google. I'm going to be the most famous Sadie Katz in the world, not because I wanted to be famous, but because I wanted to work. So first it was Sadie Katz Deli. They had all of it. It was 7 pages back. And I remember, checking it and trying to figure out how I get Getty Images and how I get my picture on there. And, and slowly I moved up to the first Google page search. And then I was wow. But that's all literally Googling how to do something, and a lot of work. Just a lot of work.
Hey guys, thank you so very much for joining me. That is our newest installment, because I forgot which number it is. It's fine. We'll just put it down below, of our interview with Miss Sadie Katz. As always, you will find all of her information down below, so you can follow her on all of her social media, as well as check out her documentary and her other film work, and 10 billion bonus points if you join our Patreon. Our Patreon, where if you guys are not familiar, you can get Google Hangout, you can get signed swag, maybe naked pictures of Heather Dorff, maybe not guaranteeing anything. But yeah, it's a fun place. And we also take like actual suggestions from our Patreons about which movies to review in the hot tub. So check that out below. Hit the like button and subscribe, and we will see you all in a couple days.